Guys, you want to see my BBL? Anime studios are getting more and more recognition from the avid anime watcher. Maybe you'll see a reaction channel going, "Oh my god, Studio Mappa! Oh my god, Madhouse!" While most people don't really understand that it's not just the studio that's responsible for how the anime will look, the staff has a play on that aspect too. It's no denying that most people know what studio did what show, but there's one studio that has been in the rise recently when it comes to their production values and also the show itself. I mean, it's in the title, CloverWorks Studios. CloverWorks has recently been producing really good looking shows and hospitalizing their staff. The working conditions and scheduling in the studio is particularly bad. I do think it was worse than Mappa before the whole JJK Season 2 happened. People complain that it's the studio's fault that certain shows goes completely bad, but there's just more than that. CloverWorks was previously known as Koenji Studio. They were a studio in A1, both under Aniplex. Aniplex production has two main locations. One of them is in Asagaya, which is basically A1 now, I think, and Koenji Studio, but now rebranded to CloverWorks. One of the key players in the beginning of the studio was Yuichi Fukushima, who was previously an animation producer in A1's Koenji Studio and also gathered most of the staff in Darling in the Franxx, while also providing some very talented animators in Slow Start that was also aired at the same time. Darling in the Franxx was mainly animated by CloverWorks and Trigger, since it was produced mainly in the Koenji Studio. Now that the studio is independent, they get credited too. While Darling in the... You know what, I'm just gonna call it FranXXX. It's too long of a name. While FranXXX was basically because of the director of the show, Atsushi Nishigori. Back when he was in Gainax, he got major roles in Gunbusters to do character animation director for a couple of episodes, and more notably, the character designer for Gurren Lagann. Then he left Gainax to direct Idolmaster in A1, since Nishigori is a big fan of the series. Oh my god, why did he work on an idol show? Shut the f. Naturally, some staff from Gainax followed him to this project and worked alongside staff from the newly formed Trigger. Then, of course, in 2018, he directed Darling in the Franxx, reuniting with his Gainax friends that was spread across in CloverWorks, Trigger, and Studio Khara. Already from the beginning, the studio showed how capable they are at producing shows, with some talented animators working on these projects. I'm not gonna talk in depth for most of the CloverWorks shows, because that will take a lot of time. It's primarily the shows that impacted the studio the most. After Darling in the Franxx, they produced quite a bit of stuff in 2018. Additionally, since A1's smaller studio in Ogikubo will work under CloverWorks and act as their third production post, meaning the main studio will have two independent lines, acquiring animation producer Toshikazu Tsuji, who was Annie for Persona 5, the Saikano movie, and other stuff in the future. I do think the first couple of shows that put CloverWorks at the map is Bunny Girl Senpai and Promised Neverland. These two shows were mainly popular because of the content itself. Of course, they adapted it very good for now. For me, Promised Neverland Season 1 is still one of the best fantasy mystery anime to come out. The first episode was really well executed, showing how eerie and, you guessed it, mysterious the world is from the viewpoint of these kids that are way smarter than you think. I'll talk about Season 2 later. Bunny Girl Senpai was an interesting show, very Monogatari-esque and how heavy the dialogues are, and the concept of adolescent syndrome was a really good way of depicting mental health or social interactions issues for teenagers. It's just basically the struggles of the day-to-day life that most of us can relate, like me. My name is Shinji. I have crippling depression. Bunny Girl Senpai would go on to have 1, 2, 3 movies. In 2019, the studio produced, of course, Promised Neverland. The Okudamari team worked on a movie in CloverWorks called Her Blue Sky. They finished the Saikano series with a movie, I think, which you know, Saikano. But one project stood out more than the other shows when it comes to the sheer animation power, which was Fate Grand Order. Arguably the best Fate TV series for now, since WebGen was on the rise in the industry, getting some very talented staff on key roles. Connections lead to more connections. Of these flares, some young WebGen animators got the opportunity to direct certain episodes and became the highlight of the series. Toya Oshima storyboarded episode 8 and probably the best episode of the series, episode 19 by Nakaya Onsen. Of course, they didn't just pull all the resources to those specific episodes. There were more key players, animators, or directors that helped to keep the consistency of the action and the overall look of the show really good. But of course, Aniplex tried to restrain the visual of the show to be more uniform, but the animators didn't really care about what they said. 2020 was a slow year for the studio and other studios because of a certain virus that was spreading I'm still not gonna say it. Only releasing one show, which was Fugo Keiji. Before talking about the disaster that's about to happen, let's talk about the lesser shows that's not as important. I'm not saying they haven't been having problems behind the scenes. I mean, it's Aniplex. You know what shenanigans they're gonna do. Some of the other pipelines in CloverWorks, like Toshikatsu Tsuji, produced Shadow Garden, and recently also did Windbreaker. Masashi Ishihama directed Horimiya, who also previously directed Persona under CloverWorks, although people are saying the anime didn't really adapt the game that well. Although he's a freelancer, he has close ties with CloverWorks and mainly does openings for most of the recent CloverWorks shows, or just a lot of other shows in general. One disaster project was Promised Neverland Season 2. If you watched the season, then you would know how rushed it was. I forgot some stuff that happened, the pacing. Overall production was nothing too detrimental, but the CG was on par with Overlord CG. It was just a rushed mess. But the worst part, after episode 4, they just deviated to the story of the manga and skipping 3 to 4 entire arcs. I don't know. I'm not a manga reader, so you guys can fill me up more on that. Stuff was just cut out from the show. Some characters that was supposed to be present was not even there in the anime. Places, action scenes were just skipped. The ending was just basically a slideshow, and it was just confusing to say the least. Season 2 adapted chapter 38 to 181 in 11 episodes, compared to season 1 that adapted chapter 1 to 37 in 12 episodes. Like, huh? Now, I don't know what happened behind the scenes. I can't find anything when it comes to the production behind the scenes. I have some speculations. Season 2 was in production when a certain virus was at its peak, so that probably troubled them quite a bit. Aniplex could have just said to adapt the whole manga with this season, which I wouldn't be surprised if they did that. The problem is that season 2 has the same directors, scriptwriters, and other staff from the previous seasons, so I do think it's something to do with the tight deadlines or rushing the source material. That's my 2 cents at least. I could be completely wrong. The anime industry's working conditions has always been bad since the 90s. It's not a CloverWorks thing, but recently for this studio, it's one of the worst examples of overworking your staff to make very ambitious looking shows while not having the bare minimum amount of time to even finish the product. Of course, that's mainly an Aniplex problem. There's 2 main production lines we're gonna talk about extensively: the aforementioned Fukushima team and the Umihara team. Let's talk about the positive pipeline first. Fukushima's team recently produced Akebi Sailor Uniform. It was visually one of the most aesthetically pleasing show that CloverWorks has produced. It was just your normal school slice of life anime, but they captured the beauty in everything, especially the feet, the backgrounds, character acting, compositing, art direction. Everything was perfect. Then the team also worked on Spy X Family. Spy X Family was a co-production between CloverWorks and WIT Studios. It was pitched first to Tetsuya Nakatake's team in WIT, but they couldn't work on Spy Family alone because they just finished Bubble, a very ambitious movie. While Bubble was finished a couple of weeks before it was released, but the staff would have gone no breaks if they worked on the show alone. But Nakatake was good friends with Fukushima, and they worked together for Spy X Family. CloverWorks produced the even-numbered episodes, and WIT did the odd episodes. Of course, the main key roles for the shows comes from both studios, like the director, character designer, etc. So there's an even distribution. While there's some intermixing of staff for the episodes, like WIT animators worked on CloverWorks episodes and such. After season 1, the production had to split the team since there's going to be a movie. So WIT worked on the movie and CloverWorks worked on season 2. Season 2 didn't reach the peaks of season 1 animation wise, since CloverWorks had to produce all 12 episodes, so it was a bigger task for them compared to previous seasons, but they still keep up the consistency, and the cruise ship arc was peak. On the other side, probably the strongest team in CloverWorks in terms of animation, the Umihara team. From the outside perspective, some of these shows were received positively, but behind the scenes was a hellhole. So the staff had to work on 3 high-profile projects in a row with no breaks. These 3 projects were Wonder Egg Priority, My Dress Up Darling, and Bocchi The Rock. If you see the release date between these shows, they were not far off in between each other. Umihara's first show as an animation producer in CloverWorks was Wonder Egg Priority. Wonder Egg Priority was an original series, and the production values was high for every episode. They tackle a lot of dark themes and do it very well. I have crippling depression. The worst part was this show was supposed to be 13 episodes, but only 12 of them reached the deadline, since the last episode / ending episode wasn't finished yet. It was said that when episode 12 aired, the storyboards for episode 13 wasn't even finished yet, so they delayed it for 3 months Yes, one episode. But Aniplex decided to make the last special episode a 40-minute long episode, but the first half of the episode was a recap and everything went to shit. The show's ending was not really an ending, it was a mess. The production actually affected the final product in terms of the content for it. Umehara, the animation producer, needed to go to the hospital twice due to exhaustion, and it was also in the middle of the pandemic. But oh boy, it wasn't over. 7 months after One Direct Priority finished airing, they had to work on My Dress Up Darling, but they also have to produce Bocchi The Rock, which was also a high-profile show, the same year. Of course, most of the key roles for the two shows are different, the directors are different, the line of animators, but again, it's the same production line, so some of the staff was involved in every project I mentioned. One of them was Kerorira. Just looking from his POV, he was a key player in Wonder Egg, he did key animation for most of the episodes, he was also the weapon animation designer and did quite a bit of animation directing work for some episodes. After that, he did some stuff in My Dress Up Darling. While his output is not as much as Wonder Egg, but he drew all the merch illustration for Dress Up Darling while preparing for his character designer debut for Bocchi The Rock. He also helped a bit with the other pipeline in Akebi-Sailor uniform, although pretty minor stuff. Before Bocchi The Rock, he went far and beyond, being the character designer, animating in all of the episodes, including the OP, and animation directed most of the episodes. He did most of the promotional stuff, like the key visual, merch, posters, and a lot of stuff. It's crazy to think how much work he had to do for some shows because he's passionate, but Aniplex just don't give the staff enough time. Some Bocchi The Rock episodes were finished a day before it was airing. Since Bocchi, they kind of stopped making high profile looking shows in a short amount of time, but recently another show is being produced from the Umehara line, which is the Negijozu no Wakagimi. From the PV/trailer alone, the animation quality will still be as impressive as their previous projects. Hopefully they took a bit of break after Bocchi. I mean, judging from the release date, it's 1 year and a couple of months after Bocchi, so maybe. And for Fukushima's team, they're gonna do Spy X Family Season 2 since it was recently announced. Of course, for the other pipelines, they're doing some other stuff. Thank you guys for watching this video. I didn't realize this video was gonna be this long, but yeah, I'll be honest, I need some filler videos soon. Since this season of anime is ending, I have like 4 shows I'm gonna talk about, so yeah, look out for that soon. If you guys like this video, leave a like. If you hate it, leave a like, comment down below what are your thoughts about CloverWorks, and yeah, hope you guys watch the video. See you guys next time.